Hello, my YouTube family. This is the OG Crypto New Jack coming at you with some juicy news. Before I begin, let me say I'm not a financial advisor. Anything you see or hear in this video is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered as financial advice. Remember to do your own research and consult with a qualified professional before making investment decisions. We're going to begin by looking at the total crypto market, and is at $1.23 trillion, and it's up 0.1%. Coming in at number one is Bitcoin at 29,319. Coming in at number two is Ethereum at 1,878. Now beloved XRP is coming in at number four at 71 cents. Taking a look at crypto bubbles, it looks like the top gainer is SHIB, up 5.8%, and the biggest loser is Hex, down 7.7%. Taking a look at the fear and greed index is neutral, coming in at 52. And here we have a tweet from Laura Shin. She put out, Rep. Richie Torres disputes the notion that Democrats are anti-crypto. In fact, on Unchained podcast, he says the next generation of Democrat lawmakers is more open to embracing the future. Let me play the video.
Yesterday, the Financial Services Committee in the House passed a market structure bill on a bipartisan basis, and the bipartisan support came from younger Democrats like myself who are open to embracing the potentialities of blockchain technology. So I see it as more as a generational divide. And as Congress becomes less of a gerontocracy over time, I suspect the institution will become more open to embracing crypto. Republicans generally are pro-business, so that's what's driving the Republican position. But to indiscriminately portray all Democrats as anti-crypto is to ignore the generational divide within the Democratic caucus. And then setting aside the politics of Congress, I asked myself, what is crypto and blockchain? The combination of crypto and blockchain has the potential to revolutionize finance, creating a better, cheaper, faster payment system. It has the potential to revolutionize the internet, creating a new layer of the internet known as Web3. It seems to me that the project of radically decentralizing both the financial system and the internet, decentralizing ownership, strikes me as a profoundly progressive enterprise.
If you enjoy.
And that lawmaker, I wish more Democrats were aligned with him because he is 100% getting it. Okay, moving on. Oh, this is Jay Hunter. He is the Digital Residency Office Director, the FinTech Project Manager of Palau. He puts out, is the system secure? Yes, the system is highly secure. Blockchain by its nature is a highly secure technology. Access to the Republic of Palau Stablecoin uses multi-factor authentication, high-level encryption protocols, and enhanced KYC AML standard. And he put this thing out, and as you can see, you got the Ripple logo, balances, everything is falling into place. And he also put out another one. How will using stablecoin differ from using other virtual payment options like PayPal or Google? PayPal, Venmo, and Google are commercial products, and as such, they charge user fees for some payment services. The Palau Stablecoin pilot is sponsored and managed by the Palau Ministry of Finance, not a commercial vendor. There will be no charges with the PSC pilot. If PSC goes to full production, the intent is to maintain zero fees for users' transactions and wallet-to-wallet transfers, with merchants' fees set a significant fraction of the cost of a currently available commercial solution. According to research conducted by Forbes, PayPal and Venmo charge an extra fee, 1.75, for instant transfers and moving money to your external bank account or card account. And both charge for sending money with a credit card, 3% with Venmo and 2.9 on PayPal. PayPal and Venmo also charge fees for business transactions. And that's a big difference when you're getting charged zero fees. Nice to see. Okay, moving on. Bitcoin Magazine put this thing out. El Salvador's new $1 billion Bitcoin mining startup to create its very own mining pool. This initiative will boost our integration into the Bitcoin network. Okay, moving on. Shout out to Michael Branch. He put out, South Korea is Ripple's latest gambit. The company said on Tuesday that it will be partnering with a Seoul-based firm, Catalyze Research, to bolster awareness of XRP Ledger. And that's wonderful to see. Partnerships keep coming. Speaking of partnerships, MacAttack put this thing out. Fubon Bank partners with Ripple for real estate tokenization pilot in Hong Kong. The partnerships, like I said, they just keep on coming. Tyler Winklevoss put this thing out. When you've made enemies with the bankers and Elizabeth Warren, you know you're doing the right thing. And he's referring to this Bloomberg article that states Wall Street banks and Senator Elizabeth Warren have finally found something they can agree on, the need to crack down on crypto. And she just wants to put the facade that she's there for the people and against the big banks and big incumbents, but it's not. She's in their pocket. They line their pockets with money. whenever she's up for re-election, they are the biggest donors to her re-election campaign. And she would like to show in public that she's there for the little people, but in reality, she's there for the banks. And this just proves it. Okay, shout out to Weezy. He puts this thing out that a Bitcoin analyst projects XRP price to skyrocket 2,397% to $26. And here is the tweet from Captain. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that, but this captain states, I believe XRP could potentially reach $25 to $30 in the next bull run. However, it's essential to remember that we are currently in accumulation phase, so don't FOMO into it. Keep accumulating gradually and hold with patience. Bull run is just a matter of time. And you know what? For a Bitcoin maxi to say that, that's very surprising. Okay, moving on. Shout out to Mr. Intuitive, Trumas only. And let me just play the video.
What I wouldn't want is for the lesson from all of this to be that somehow government stimulus, whether monetary or fiscal, somehow is a good thing. I think there are very debilitating economic consequences, one of which is that the Fed is now paying 5.4% to banks to keep the money sitting dormant at the Fed, doing nothing. I think the overall effect of all the government stimulus, even as we try to normalize, which would be the best thing, is we are slowly shifting power away from the private sector toward the government. A lot of that GDP growth was hiring government workers and engaging in government finance projects. That means through deficit financing. That works its way into both employment and GDP numbers. But is that healthy? I still believe that the ideal system is to let individuals in the private sector pursue life, liberty, and happiness under conditions of a stable dollar and accurate price signals. So I don't want any of this to empower the Fed or the Fed to get too self-satisfied when it may turn out their model is not the right one for a capitalist economy.
100% agree with that. Okay, moving on. Shout out to Bill Morgan. He writes, another slapdown for the SEC. No one outside the U.S. cares anyway about its enforcement actions. And he is writing in respect to a CoinDesk tweet. Ripple's long legal saga with the SEC.gov had almost no impact on his conversation with central banks. The firm's vice president of central bank engagement told CoinDesk. And we're going to move on to the tweet that XRP Darren put out. There are 195 countries in the world. James say 5 announced, 5 not announced. Conversations with 20 or more. If the conversations turn into signed deals, that is 30 out of 195 or 15.38% running on Ripple's CBDC platform that offers private or public on the XRP. Let me just play this video.
I would tell you that outside of the US, the SEC case, had almost no impact on our ability to get conversations and projects going with central banks. I know here in the US, we focus a lot on the US, that's what you'd expect, but the reality is that the rest of the world does not see things the same way. I think it's been clear for a while that countries like the UK and Switzerland and Japan have been very clear that XRP is not a security. So anyway, moving on to the CBDC side, it's not really been an impediment. since we started 2.5 years ago on this project, we've announced 5 different countries that are working with us. We have a similar number that are not announced, and then we have 20 plus other active discussions underway. So we've announced 5 different countries that are working with us. We have a similar number that are not announced, and then we have 20 plus other active discussions underway. So
there you go. And he says it was not an impediment. And I remember Brad Garlinghouse, I believe he was in Dubai for some meeting, and the Ripple employee told him after the meeting that nobody gives a shit about what the SEC classifies XRP. And I would think after this ruling, they give less of a shit now that the Judge Torres ruled XRP, the token of itself, is not a security. Okay, moving on. Anthony Welfare, he put this thing out. It's another world first for the XRP ledger and the Palau Stablecoin project. And he goes on to say they have built-in transparency, which means you can see the transactions taking place real time. The CBDC and the digital currency have the ability for us to hold our governments to account and watch what they spend and where they spend it. Note, transparency and privacy can be set at many different levels with blockchain technology. What I'm talking about here is with a completely open public blockchain, i.e. XRPL. And that was part of his tweet where you can keep track of all the payments going back and forth. And that's a wonderful thing to see. Okay, moving on. Senator Cynthia Lummis writes, the lack of clear rules of the road at the federal level is creating a legal mess for the crypto asset industry while leaving Wyoming consumers and investors vulnerable to bad actors. And I 100% agree with that statement. Okay, moving on. Ripple put this tweet out. A House a film, and a forest all have one thing in common. They are real-world assets that can be represented as tokens or fractionalized tokens on a blockchain. Ripple's Jas Takar describes the potential of tokenized future in under 60 seconds. Let me play the video.
This is tough. Hello, my name is Jas Takar, and this is Crypto in a Minute. So what does a tokenized future look like? So first, let's define what tokenization actually is. Tokenization is the representation of real-world value on a blockchain with tokens. And so, if we think about financial instruments, I see a future where equities and bonds and other instruments are represented as tokens on a blockchain. I also see more illiquid assets, such as real estate, being represented on blockchains through tokens also. So what does the future hold? What does all this mean for us individuals? It allows us all to own fractions of assets we otherwise could not afford. I can't afford to fund a film, but maybe I can own a token that partially funds a movie. I could buy a token that represents a rainforest because I want to preserve it for ecological reasons. So look, I see a future where we all own value that we otherwise couldn't own. We own fractions of assets we otherwise couldn't own. And yeah, that's what I see. We good? Is that it? Can I go?
Very, very good. I can't wait for the technology to get to where it needs to go. So wonderful thing to see. Okay, moving on. Shout out to Ashley Prosper. She writes, I repeat my advice to Gary Gensler. Settle with Ripple over the outstanding issues, then resign. 7/31 will be a great day to announce a settlement. Then a week later, tell us you're leaving the SEC at the end of this year. Your treasury position is long gone, but a record settlement figure will at least give you some bragging rights. And I'm pretty sure Goldman Sachs would have you back, considering you did so much to help them. 100% agree with that. Okay. This is Denell Dixon. Would I miss it? See you on the stage at the Paris Blockchain Week. There's going to be another summit there, and she is going to be one of the speakers. Nice to see. Okay. Ido Farino, he writes Project Stellar, not to be confused with Stellar, but Project Stella mentions Ripple 5 times on a paper called Synchronized Cross-Border Payments and also RippleNet. The project is a joint research undertaking by the European Central Bank, ECB, and the Bank of Japan, BOJ, for cross-border payments. I'm telling you, all the dominoes are falling in place. Okay, moving on. Shout out to Michael Branch. He writes, SBI Group reportedly unveiled its plan for Ripple's on-demand liquidity ODL product in Japan. The company intends to use XRP for cross-border payments. Nice to see. Okay, moving on. From Combat, he put this. They are printing money. They are not manufacturing anything at all. It's printing money. This has been one of their weapons globally. The monetary system, sanctions here, sanctions there. We need a new financial architecture globally. Let me play the video.
They are printing money. They are not manufacturing anything at all. It's printing money. And this has been one of their weapons globally. The monetary system, the global monetary system, controlled by dollar and euro, has been used. Sanctions here, sanctions there, sanctions there, grabbing this account, grabbing that account, has been one of their tools. This is not going to continue indefinitely. And we need a new financial architecture globally, not controlled by euro, not controlled by the dollar, not controlled by other currencies.
Yeah, it appears the entire world is getting sick and tired of the US dollar and the US sanctions, and they are trying to come up with a way to get away from the dollar and get to a different kind of monetary system. So we need to prepare for that change, that it is inevitable. Okay, moving on. We have Mark Cuban responding to when Gary Gensler was interviewed the other day. Rand Noonan first writes, Gary sounds defeated and angry. He is now alluding that the other commissioners actually have a say when in the past they have voiced their concerns against his approach. He is clearly weakened by the XRP ruling. And Mark Cuban writes, he is also in the habit of exclusively calling token holders investors. He knows that is incorrect, but it serves his purpose, which leads to a question: which tokens are still actively enhancing, supporting, and promoting? In other words, which are acting as a common enterprise? Given the decline in investment into crypto, the data might tell a different story over the past year. That efforts of the common enterprise and associated persons have declined or even ended for many tokens. Shouldn't it, making them certain to fail Howie? I don't have any data on this. Is there any way to know? Well, we will soon find out. Lachiguru put this thing out. China's CBDC is linked to a digital ID. If caught speeding, a fine is instantly deducted from your digital wallet by a surveillance system. Let me play this video. And you know what? These are the concerns that we do have with a CBDC. I believe DeSantis from Florida and Warren Davidson, the representative in the House, that they both are concerned about central bank digital currencies issued by the governments, which are used to basically surveil their people, and they are both against it. And I believe Warren Davidson is supporting a bill that will not allow that to happen. And that's my only concern with that, is for us to turn to what China is doing over there. No bueno. Okay, here we have, shout out to Digital Perspectives for putting this thing out. He writes, there was only one congressman that went on record before the SEC Ripple TORRES ruling. Special thank you to GOP Majority Whip for having the courage to take a stand. And that is Congressman Tom Emmer, who specifically stated XRP is not a security. Let me play the video.
Say over 2 years. First off, my position's very clear. XRP is not a security, all right? But even if you want to do this, you want to have this discussion in the SEC, my frustration is, you probably have heard very directly, you brought up in a very nice way. Maybe you should be doing this job and I should be doing that one, because I'm not going to be so nice. Over 2 years is not only a problem, it is absolutely unacceptable. Because what this does is entrepreneurs like you and everybody else on this town hall, you start looking elsewhere. Money will go where it's easiest to flow. And the more the government puts in obstacles, and one of them is just inaction, the less opportunity we have to position the U.S. as the leader. And it's an obstacle to growth. So we're going to keep working. Really appreciate all your support. And together, we're going to keep educating these members of Congress. And as we're doing this, and you guys are saying I'm going to make a donation, forgive me, Perry Ann, because I know we are short on time. Again, do you know how powerful this is for some elected officials to look over and say, what's Emmer doing? He's getting what? He's getting, oh my goodness, campaign contributions. I need to learn more about what's going on with cryptocurrencies. It's just, it's human nature, and it's good. We need to push them.
Well, we want to help you in that push. So again, thank you for your leadership on this. I think it does have an impact. And look, it's been 2 years, but we're going to keep pushing.
Good.
Yep. Thank you, Tom Emmer. Okay, shout out to XRPville. He writes, it's obvious that Uber is looking right past Bitcoin and is leaning towards a better exchange mechanism like XRP. Let me play the video.
Any of this has convinced you? Is there any chance of Uber accepting Bitcoin in the future? Are you having conversations about this internally? Like, could it happen someday?
It definitely could. We're having conversations all the time. I think right now what we see with Bitcoin and some of the other cryptos, that they are quite valuable as a store of value. The exchange mechanism is expensive. It's not great for the environment. As the exchange mechanism becomes less expensive, becomes more environmentally friendly, I think you will see us lean into crypto a little bit more. So we're absolutely watching it. And if you say, is Uber going to accept crypto in the future? Absolutely. At some point. This isn't the right point, but we will.
You heard the man say right there. He says he will absolutely accept crypto, but he said that these are not the right coins. And he was referring to probably the top two coins that there is as far as market cap, Bitcoin and Ethereum, because they're basically too slow and too expensive, and they're not ideal for payments. Obviously, one comes to mind that is ideal, and that is XRP on the XRPL. And I think he knows that. And we'll see in the very near future how that works out. Okay, moving on. Shout out to Mr. Huber. He puts out, Ripple's attorney asked Hinman if Klein had asked him to contact Consensus regarding the Ethereum free pass. Consensus is a client of Klein's firm. The SEC attorney then prohibits Hinman from answering the question. Mark Fagel, how can you not only stand by and just watch this cover up, but even ridicule us for asking for an investigation into the SEC's dealings with the Ethereum crooks? How can any former SEC official with integrity support this? And you know what? I have to 100% agree. The question is, I'm not suggesting a directive. Did he suggest to you that it would be useful for you to talk to the people behind Ether? Mr. Tenero, I'm going to instruct the witness not to answer the question. Are you kidding me? This is a government agency deliberately not answering the question being asked. And then down here, Mr. Tenero again, which is the attorney for the SEC, I'm going to instruct the witness not to answer that question on the basis of deliberative process. And so obviously something's not right here. So I have to agree. I'd like things to be on the up and up. And Mark Fagel, I got to tell you, you're a strong supporter of the SEC, but how can you support things like this? This should not be happening from a government agency. Okay, moving on. Here we have Digital Perspectives. Judge Torres' ruling isn't just a win for Ripple, it's a win for the entire crypto space. And I believe that's a quote from Charles Hoskinson in the video. Let me play the video.
So there was a recent ruling. It was a mixed ruling from the judge who was presiding over, I believe, Judge Torres, who was presiding over the Ripple case, where they kind of split the baby and said certain transactions that Ripple, the company, did were considered to be securities transactions, and that's going to have to work its way through appeal. But then for all intents and purposes, the secondary market really does look like a non-security transaction. So basically what this does is allows exchanges to relist XRP, and I believe some have already done so, and it also creates a good legal foundation to argue that things like Solana, Polygon, Cardano, and others are not securities, as we've believed all along, and we've continuously analyzed from the Howey side of things. So the war is not over yet. The SEC doesn't really agree with that ruling. They'll continue doing what they do, but it does certainly weaken the case, and also encourages lawmakers to finally do their job and pass legislation to cover the cryptocurrency industry, to give everyone clarity, and to rein in people who want to do legislation through enforcement. So long road ahead. There's a lot to do, a lot of moving pieces, a lot to think about, but you take the small wins where you can find them. And we've been beaten down quite a bit with Luna and FTX and Celsius and the bear market and unrealistic expectations. So it's good to take a step back and realize that our best days are still ahead of us. And whenever you have a win like this, it's a win for the industry. And it gives everybody an opportunity to take a big sigh of relief and just enjoy the day and move forward.
Well, that is definitely good to hear from Charles. I don't always agree with Charles, but today, with what he said, I 100% agree with Charles Hoskinson on everything he said there. Okay, moving on. Here we have Meta Lawman. Shout out to him. He writes, a 3-judge panel of the DC Circuit just invalidated an SEC order on the grounds it was arbitrary and capricious. 2 of those 3 judges are now considering Grayscale's case, which seeks to invalidate the SEC's denial of Grayscale's bid to convert GBTC to a spot Bitcoin ETF. And I got to tell you, the SEC is just taking one hit after the next, and they're going to have to capitulate because the law and the facts are not on their side. And we all know that. The judges know it. And they're ruling in that fashion. So hopefully the SEC capitulates so we can get this crypto space thriving here in the United States of America, the best country in the world. Okay, moving on. Shout out to the digital asset investor. XRP is the only digital asset with legal clarity, and he's trying to help this person out because the digital asset investor is a gentleman. And this person here is just about had done it with ETH. He writes, I'm officially done with ETH. I've used Ethereum exclusively as my layer 1 since 2017. Bought, traded, stored tens of millions of USDT/C tokens over the last 6 years. I'm done. It doesn't work. It's slow, expensive, bloated. DeFi is broken. And not even, he goes on to say it's not even decentralized and keeps going on a tirade. And the digital asset investors kind of help him out, say, hey, we understand all the problems you're having with ETH, but just move over to the XRP and the XRP ledger, and you'll have 0 of those problems. And I 100% agree with that. Okay, moving on. Shout out to Chad Steingraber. He writes, this sums it up perfectly. The technology is ready to service the entire world. There are big players who do not want to change. They will adapt or die. And this is an old video, but I'm just going to play it because it's great to hear over and over again. Let me play this video.
We have the technology to allow every financial institution on the planet to settle with every other financial institution in a compatible jurisdiction in any asset in seconds for less than a penny. Just think about this. Anyone who's made a payment knows that we're nowhere near that today. But imagine every financial institution settling with every other financial institution in seconds for less than a penny, any asset. That's fundamentally transformative. We have the technology to do it. Now we just need to figure out how to drive the adoption. And of course, there's all the challenges with there's incumbents, there's regulation, there's inertia. There's the big players who are really trying to defend. If you're one of the largest banks in the world, you want to push pause or stop on technology because you're in the lead. So of course, you say you love technology, but obviously you wish you could stop it. So we have
exactly any asset in seconds, and that's what Ripple and XRPL is bringing to the table, and that's why the incumbents, they can't compete. How can you compete with a company that can transfer cross-border payments basically instantly for fractions of a penny, and they're taking hours, days, or weeks, charging you 2 to 5% depending on from where you're sending it to and from? You can't compete with that, and that's why this lawsuit was dropped on them to try and stop the company and stop the growth. And outside of the U.S., they didn't reach their goal. Inside the U.S., they did. But now with the ruling, and hopefully this case just settles if they're not going to appeal. But this case is going to be proved to be a big help in the end for XRP. Well, okay, fam, that's going to do it for today's video. If you found this video to be helpful, would you please smash the like and subscribe? I would really appreciate it, and it doesn't cost you anything. Thank you much in advance. And the words of Snoop Dogg, keep your mind on your money and your money on your mind. Peace out, man.